To start our journey into the muscular system, we need to look at both the macro and the microscopic aspects of the muscles. To look at the macroscopic, the overall muscle, how does it work? What is it? But also the microscopic, what's inside? What are the fibers? How do the pieces and ions come together to make the muscle contract? So a few basic ideas of what muscles can do, what their basic ideas are. First thing is going to be excitability or irritability. Now, excitability or irritability is simply put as the ability to receive and respond to stimuli. What does that mean? It means your nervous system sends a signal out and the muscle responds. Or the muscle has receptors that receive a stretch signal, the muscle responds. Or there are hormones that are signaled, caused to respond. The idea is the muscle responds to something. And when a muscle responds, it contracts, hence the contractibility. All muscles will contract or get shorter. There's not a single muscle in our body that pushes and gets bigger. It just doesn't happen. All muscles contract and get shorter. The idea of extensibility. Now, these muscles, while they can contract, they can also stretch out and be pulled longer. This extensibility you can see in any joint as you move. Take the elbow, for example. As that elbow opens up, we increase the joint angle here, so extension. The biceps brachii, muscle right here, is being stretched out at that point. Now, if that elbow flexes, the biceps brachii gets shorter. It's actually doing work that way. So the idea of extensibility, muscles can stretch out to a point. There are limits with how much the muscle can stretch. And elasticity. Now, your muscles have this elastic property. Just like the last one, the ability to stretch. But it's not just stretch, it's the ability to recoil also. Think about a rubber band. If you stretch a rubber band and let go, it snaps back down. That's the idea of elasticity. It's recoiling back to a set smaller size. Now, if you've ever severed a tendon or muscle or know someone that has, or maybe seen something on video somewhere, you'll notice that if you completely sever that tendon or that muscle, it's going to recoil back to its 2 points or more points of attachment. So take, for example, if you had the biceps brachii again. If that was severed right in half, the lower half would go down to just beyond the elbow where it attaches. The upper half would go up into the shoulder where it attaches. They'd split and go away. All the muscles are under a little bit of tension at all times. Now you can generate more tension, but they all have a kind of baseline amount of tension, where if one of the attachment points is let loose, it recoils back to where it is, back to the starting point. So we have excitability, contractility, extensibility, and elasticity. Traits across all of our muscles we're talking about. So what do the muscles do? Some functionality. Well, first off, they maintain posture. If you're sitting, you're standing, you're moving, you have muscles that are maintaining that set structure. Think about it. If you're standing up straight, using muscles of your core, of your chest, you're even using the shoulders to make sure they're set. The hips are keeping you in place. Your legs are in a certain location. Everything is working together to maintain that posture, that upright posture. Same thing if you're sitting or you're slouching or you're doing whatever. The only thing that you wouldn't be maintaining posture with is pretty much laying down. And even at that point, still laying flat, you still have muscles maintaining certain tensions. They're more in a relaxed state though. Your joints. Think wrist, elbow, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle. All these joints, plus a whole lot more in your body, are stabilized based on the muscles that go across them. So as the muscles cross the joint, they give strength, they give stability, but they also give the ability to move that joint. And heat generation. As your muscles contract, they're utilizing ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Well, they can't utilize 100% of the energy, so some of it is released as heat. So all this muscle movement, even if you're not moving, your muscles are maintaining a little bit of tension, that is still generating heat. The more you move, the more the muscles go, the more heat you generate. That's why if you're exercising, you're going for a run, you're playing a sport, you're simply constantly walking, you'll feel warmer than if you were simply sitting and not moving. The more the muscles work, the more heat is generated. So let's look at the 3 different types of muscles we'll be covering in this unit. Looking at the cardiac muscle. Well, cardiac, when you think about heart, cardiac muscle is found in your heart. So it's meant to really pump blood to the body. Second one is smooth muscle. Now, smooth muscle is found in several different places. You'll find it around your arteries, helping to maintain blood pressure. You'll also find it around hollow organs, things like the stomach, small intestines, large intestines, esophagus coming down. So you have this smooth muscle helping maintain a certain tension, a certain force around these different organs. And the third one is skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is going to be the muscle attached to bones. Now, sometimes it's attached to skin, but mostly it's going to be attached to bones. So these are 3 different types of muscles. Cardiac in the heart, pumping blood. Smooth muscle around hollow organs, so blood pressure, moving digestion through. And skeletal muscle is moving your body, making sure you can move your arm, your legs, your head. All that movement is skeletal muscle. So if I think back in the histology chapter, we've looked at all 3 of these before. But let's refresh what we remember. This is your cardiac muscle. Now in cardiac muscle, hopefully remembering that cardiac is involuntary. It's located in the heart. The cells are shorter, but they're branching. You can see it branching right about here. It's branching out. You can then also think about these intercalated discs. Here's one, here's one. Those intercalated discs are going to be the thicker, darker bands that are allowing the muscle cell to be held together. So it's nice and strong, making sure it don't tear apart. You've got the striations, all those little lines, and it's typically uninucleate. So that's our cardiac muscle. Now take cardiac muscle and compare that to smooth muscle. Just think for a second, okay, cardiac smooth, what's similar, what's different? Well, if you're thinking smooth muscle is this portion in here. You'll notice smooth muscle does not have any striations. It doesn't have intercalated discs. The smooth muscle is going to be involuntary. That's a similarity. We said location already was around hollow organs, around the arteries. So our similarity is the involuntary control. Similarity is the uninucleate. They're kind of small, almost diamond-shaped cells in your smooth muscle. Now think about those 2 in contrast with your skeletal muscle. All right, skeletal muscle, hope you remember, skeletal muscle is going to look kind of like this. You have the striations. All these lines are going to be your striations. That's a similarity with the cardiac muscle. But then we don't have the intercalated discs. We are going to have multinucleate, so you have many nuclei per cell. Each one of these are all nuclei kind of shoved in the side there. That's because you have all the cells, as they grow, they kind of merge together, creating these long cylindrical cells that are multinucleate. We have voluntary control. You think about moving something, raise your hand, goes up. That's voluntary control. So 3 different types of muscle tissues we're thinking about. We're going to look a little more into the cardiac and smooth in this video quickly, but most of this unit is going to focus on the skeletal muscle. So as we said, cardiac muscle, only in the heart. That's it. Involuntary control. We already said that too. Involuntary control. Think about your body just simply controlling it without you thinking about it. You have intrinsic regulation. Now, intrinsic is meaning internal regulation. Your heart can control itself. You have these autorhythmic cells that are going to help control the heart, control the beat of the heart. But it doesn't work alone. So we have this intrinsic as well as extrinsic control also. Extrinsic, things like your autonomic nerves, your hormones, as well as stretch receptors. So what that means is basically, you're going to have your brain controlling the heart. So you have the heart itself beating, but the brain can send signals into that cardiac muscle to modify the rate of beat. You have hormones that can impact how much your heart is beating. Think about epinephrine or adrenaline. If a whole bunch of epinephrine comes in, your heart starts racing very quickly. And these stretch receptors, if the heart stretches out too much, it automatically contracts to protect itself. So you're going to have different receptors, different signals, intrinsic and extrinsic. The histology, covered already. Let's just make sure we're on the same page. Short, fat cells, they're close together. They are uninucleates, we mentioned that. Branched and interconnecting. That one cell kind of branches out into two and kind of weaves a whole different pattern. You're going to have your striations, we mentioned. You're going to have those intercalated discs. Remember, that's what holds the cells together. But those intercalated discs will also have gap junctions in them. Gap junctions allow for ions to travel back and forth. It's cell-to-cell communication. It's how that heart can help to control its own beats and communicate cell-to-cell throughout the entire process. All right, smooth muscle. Now, smooth muscle, we mentioned, are the walls of hollow organs around the stomach, the small intestines, large intestines, esophagus, around the arteries. Well, digestive tract, sure, mentioned all those. But urinary tract, think about the ureters, going from the kidneys down into the urinary bladder. Respiratory passages, thinking about heading down the trachea, to the bronchi, the bronchioles, and those smaller tubes. Smooth muscle helps control the amount of airflow into each individual section, into each individual area. And reproductive passages. Can think in the female system, looking at the uterine tubes heading to the uterus, and the uterus itself. In the male system, you're looking at the different ducts heading from the testes up into the system. So you do have smooth muscle found throughout the reproductive as well. Histology, we've done again. Remember, spindle-shaped cells, uninucleates, no striations, and they're found in sheets wrapping around. But keep in mind, that spindle-shaped cell, that uninucleate, that's going to be what is this smooth muscle. No striations, that's unique, because both cardiac and skeletal have striations. But these sheets, they're usually found in one of two directions. I say usually because there can be other directions as well. They're usually found in either this circular layer or this longitudinal layer. What that means is, the circular layer, the fibers, are going around the circumference of the tube. So if this was, let's say, the intestines, the fibers would wrap around it in a circumference. Well, what does that do? It helps to squeeze down at those certain points. So it's helping to kind of create a little bit smaller area. While the longitudinal run the length of the tube, helps to shorten the tube, keep a little bit of tension in the tube. So we have this circular and longitudinal. And it kind of looks like this. You'll notice this is the circular layer running all inside here. Now the circular layer is more toward the middle. You can see the fibers are running around the circumference. While the longitudinal, if you notice, is the more outside layer here. You can see the little dots. That's because the fibers are running in this direction, going back, the length of the tube. So we have both circular around and longitudinal going the length. And we mentioned control, involuntary. You don't even think about it. Once you're done with your meal, do you think about how to digest it? No, of course not. It just happens. That's because you have this, again, autonomic nervous system. Simply tells your intestines, tells your stomach, tells all these different organs what to do, how to work. Hormones, chemicals, stretch, same idea. They can come in and tell this smooth muscle how to react. Contract or relax. Contract or relax. So you have all this basically non-conscious thought process going on. All of this involuntary control, controlling your smooth muscle. So both cardiac and smooth, both involuntary control. Now from here, gotta keep moving on. You move on, next look at more of the skeletal muscle. Because skeletal muscle is more the focus of what we're doing for the rest of this unit.